about you, but I am going to be consuming a number of Cadbury mini eggs this weekend because I have the excuse of Easter, and I'm excited about it. Regardless of the time of year and regardless of whether or not you celebrate Easter, it can be really hard when we're presented with a number of delicious food options, whether it's at a party or an event or whatever it is, but it can be hard to resist the temptation to just entirely gorge yourself. So why do we do this? Why do we tend to eat more than we need? Well, there are a number of factors that influence why we eat. There are complex and interesting systems at play that dictate when we should and when we shouldn't eat. Unfortunately, these systems are often overridden by the lifestyle, environmental, and social factors that also play a role. So something like the setting that you're in. Are you at a party where there's lots of mindless eating going on? Or something like the time of day. So we're kind of programmed, we've learned to eat at certain times of the day, regardless of if we're hungry or not. We just know that if it's noon, then it's lunchtime. Of course, for athletes, fueling your body is really important, so it helps if we can listen to our body so that we can actually get what we need when we need it. If we actively listen to our bodies, we can kind of tune out some of those social and environmental factors and try to really tune in to what our metabolic cues are trying to tell us. So right now I'm learning about a few different physiological signals that dictate food intake. They're complex and there's a lot more to the story than I know, but I'm going to try and share a little bit about one hormone in particular called leptin. Leptin tells your brain when you've had enough to eat. So it's stored in your fat tissues and it's released from those tissues when you eat. So as an example, when I start popping mini eggs into my mouth this weekend, because it's bound to happen, leptin will be released from my fat stores. It's going to make its way through my blood circulation, through my bloodstream, to a part of my brain that controls food intake. It's going to let that part of my brain know that I can stop eating, that I have enough fat. More specifically, through a series of events, leptin ultimately shuts off the feeding center in our brain. So when my brain gets this signal from leptin, I'm going to feel satiated. In the ideal situation, if I'm listening to my body, I'm going to stop eating the mini eggs and maybe go partake in the Easter egg hunt. As time passes, the levels of leptin in my bloodstream will lower. Remember, when leptin levels are high and leptin is acting on our brain, it inactivates the feeding centers in our brain, so it tells us not to eat. So in the reverse, when leptin levels are low, the feeding center will be activated. So I will start to feel hungry and I will probably reach for more of those mini eggs. And thus the cycle continues. If you're anything like me, you're probably going to eat the mini eggs regardless of satiety, and this doesn't mean that there's anything wrong necessarily with the leptin in your body. It's probably more of the case that you're not listening to your body and you're being influenced more greatly by all of those social and environmental cues. That said, unfortunately for some people, the leptin system in the body actually doesn't work. It's called leptin resistance, and it's the effect of a chronic increase in leptin. If you're familiar at all with insulin resistance, it's a really similar idea. So leptin is still being released by your fat or adipose tissue. It's just not working in your body. It doesn't actually communicate the signal that it's supposed to. So if the brain can't recognize it, then leptin can't really do its job of turning off the feeding center. As a result, people with leptin resistance may just keep eating and keep releasing leptin into their system without feeling satiated. Understandably, and really unfortunately, people with leptin resistance have a much higher risk of obesity. On top of this, high levels of leptin in the bloodstream also contribute to hypertension or high blood pressure, which also puts people with leptin resistance at a higher risk for other health concerns. So if you're enjoying an Easter feast this weekend, or if you're just enjoying food whenever, try and keep leptin in mind. It's probably there, trying to do its job, but often these social cues, like I mentioned, play a bigger role. So pay attention to your body. Instead of shoveling food into your mouth really quickly, give leptin a little bit of time to take its effect. Practice eating slowly and consciously, and try to allow your body to tell you when it's had enough, because ultimately, it really knows best.